new user webinars every 2 weeks and have a lot of fun with them. So hopefully you're here to learn more about Buzztouch, learn what it is, how to use it, and that's basically what we're going to be going over tonight. We're going to talk about what Buzztouch is, how to use it. We're going to build an app right here, answer a bunch of questions, and have some fun. So before we get rolling along here, I'm just going to quickly visit the Buzztouch website that you guys have obviously seen and visited and probably signed up at, so you could find out about these webinars. But one of the things that I liked about Buzztouch is that there's real people behind it. A lot of websites that you go to or services that you use, you don't really know. You kind of guess that there's people behind it, but you don't really know. So this is us. I mean, this is David Book that we'll be talking about tonight. He's the chief cook and bottle washer, as it says there, but he started off this whole project a couple years ago and has been growing it. Steven is his partner out there in California. And then you can see there's myself, Chris, there's Ian, and you'll notice that Ian is logged in as Warren tonight. That's just because Warren's name is the main login for the organizer for this GoToWebinar software. And then there's Susan and Warren, Tony, and Trish, and all real people, all big embracers of Buzztouch and love bringing it to the next level. And tonight we're going to love sharing it with you guys. So let's get started with. I've got just this little slide presentation here just to keep me on track and keep me knowing what I'm supposed to be talking about. So this is some of the questions that we'll be going over tonight. What is Buzztouch? What can you do with it? How does Buzztouch work? Who is Buzztouch for? How is Buzztouch different? That's important because there's a lot of solutions out there, and sometimes finding the right one is just as hard as learning how to use one. I went through that same experience years ago. And then where do I start? So starting with the most basic question, what is Buzztouch? There's a big long answer there that comes from our website. But basically what it boils down to is that it's a system that helps people make apps, and either for Android or for iOS or Apple. And the system that creates these apps or helps you create the apps is about two parts. One part is the actual source code that is the meat and potatoes that actually makes the app work, and the other half is the online control panel. So there's a lot of solutions out there that say that you don't have to learn code or anything, and this kind of falls in that category also, where all of the main majority of all the configuration of your app and building your app screen by screen is done on an online control panel and website, and then the actual compiling of the code and making it actually work and become an app and make it deployable on a phone kind of happens just as a process of that. So we'll talk more about how that process works throughout the night, but within the last couple of years you can see on there that we're already we have over 175,000 people have visited the site and joined, and we have a lot of people that are successful in creating apps and are making money and having fun, whatever the motivation is. Everybody has a different motivation for wanting to create their first app or wanting to create an app in general. And when we embrace all those motivations, whether it's money, fun, something for a group or community, or just something to learn from. So what can you do with Buzztouch? Buzztouch, like I said, it helps people make apps. So you can quickly develop mobile apps of varying complexity. And then the true power of Buzztouch is that you can manage those same mobile apps with dynamic content from an online control panel. So what that means, and you'll really, the best way to explain is when I actually create the demo app tonight and show you what I mean by dynamic content. But to kind of summarize that, in the traditional sense of creating an iPhone app or an Android app, you would crack open a book and learn from the demonstration codes and go through the chapters and type in a bunch of stuff, a bunch of code, a bunch of programming language into a compiler and compile that up and end up with a final project and then send that off to your app store or something. And if you wanted to ever make any changes to that, you'd have to go back to that same source code, change up your code, recompile it, send it back to the App Store. And that's really the way that the majority of, if you think about the big time apps, that's the way that they're done. But that's not a real efficient way for most people, and especially people who already have the learning curve of trying to learn, coding, and then you have to compile and recompile and resend it off and stuff like that. It's not real efficient. So by using this system that we have at Buzztouch, you can create the app and you can bundle it up and you can ship it off. But if you ever want to make some changes to it, you can just log back into the control panel, make some changes, and those changes just propagate out to that app, and they can really be like real-time changes. So if you had a typo in your app, you could change it and nobody would be the wiser. If you wanted to change maybe the color scheme or something like that, that's all things that you can do on the fly from the control panel. Eventually down the road, if you add some major features to your app, then yes, you'll want to recompile it and ship it back off to the App Store. But that's, for little changes or for easy changes, or maybe if it's just something that you're changing maybe on a monthly basis, like a coupon code or something in your app that you're changing for customers, then that's something that's very simple to do from the control panel, and you don't have to worry about all of the compiling every single time. So how does Buzztouch work? I've kind of described the whole process, but this is one of the processes that we'll do tonight when we create the app. You start off by creating a project. So within Buzztouch's control panel, within your user control panel, you create a project, and that project just really equates to being an app, an application, whether it's Android or iOS or both, whether it's iPad, big size, small size, whatever. That's going to be a project or an application. Once you create that project, you're going to add your screens to it. So if you think about designing an app screen by screen, think about any app that you've used. You usually navigate through a series of screens to get to the content that you actually need to interact with. So think about designing an app from a screen by screen basis. And one trick that we even teach people to do is to use index cards. You can use index cards and just a pencil and kind of draw it all out, and then get all those index cards in the right order. And then, that's kind of wireframing your app, and then you can start building it in control panel. Now, in our system, we have what's called plugins, and I'll describe those more in depth later. But a plugin is really just what makes up that screen. So the plugin is the code behind it, and you don't have to really manipulate that code. You're just doing everything from the control panel. But you're adding in different screens, you're connecting them together, and you're making them go in the order and the flow that you want. So that's basically it. You're going to create the project, add some screens to it. That's really your content. Then you're going to download the source code, open the source code in your compiler, and the compiler is something that developers use to package up all the code into the finished product. So in the case of Apple, they use Xcode. In the case of Android apps, you can use Eclipse, or as of last week, or was it earlier this week, the Android Studio was announced at the Google I/O conference. So that's going to be their new kind of compiler. And once you do that, the compiler gets it ready to work on a phone. So you can either deploy it onto a phone, or you can have it running in a simulator. So that's the basic flow of creating an app. Get it running in your simulator, go back to the control panel, make some changes to your screens, see them happen on the simulator, and then just keep on going back and forth until you get a finished product, and then you're ready to ship it off to the store or share it with friends. If it's an Android app, you can do that, and that's basically it. So the next question that we cover is, who is Buzztouch for? Now, I've been around the Buzztouch community for over 2 years now, and in that time, I've seen and witnessed that first bullet there, anyone and everyone. That pretty much sums it up. But to give examples of some people that, when I think about who's using Buzztouch, different categories of people would include non-developers. That would be somebody that has no programming background. They just have an idea and they want to see if they can do it, and they start searching the web for different services that can help them, and they've stumbled upon Buzztouch and become successful using our system. Another group of people could be developers, people who actually know how to do it the hard way. And when I say the hard way, it's all relative, of course, but um, compared to the Buzztouch way, it is obviously harder. So we have developers that have created apps in the past, but they're just looking for a more efficient way of doing it. And by leveraging all the source code that we provide, built into the system, that just saves them a bunch of steps that they don't have to do. And then another one I see a lot is web developers. Think back the last 10, 15 years, that's been a whole business category of people who make a decent living creating websites for clients or managing websites for clients. And now everybody's kind of making that transition from websites to mobile or adding mobile to their websites. So whether it's somebody that's trying to expand their business and include the newest technology, or people just trying to jump into a new job classification, we see web developers that are taking their knowledge of websites and maybe the programming of HTML and CSS and HTML5 and trying to leverage that knowledge into creating iPhone apps or Android apps. And then we see businesses who just want to create maybe a marketing tool or a customer tool or a back-end, database integration tool for their business. And I see some great examples of that all the time. And then the list just goes on: doctors, teachers, photographers, 12-year-old kids, musicians, bands, just about everybody. So, like I said, I can sum it up with the anyone and everyone, and that pretty much says it. But really, yeah, I've seen, mothers, teachers, just everything, and it's great. It's awesome to see people learn the system and be successful with it. So I'm going to list out a couple different ways that Buzztouch is different, just because we're kind of proud. We're proud of the way that we're different. Um, our originator, David Book, he was talking to me the other day, and he describes Buzztouch as being kind of in no man's land. And the next slide will kind of describe what that means. But to sum it up a little bit, there's a lot of services out there that you can you can use some kind of programming language and create apps. And there's a lot of systems out there that you can know absolutely nothing about programming and make apps, but those may not look all that great. And we're kind of right in the middle, which is kind of a unique place. But first and foremost, what makes Buzztouch different is the community. And these are just some screenshots here from the forum, but I'm gonna visit the forum and just show you around real quick, just because it's really one of the biggest assets of our whole site here. So from the Buzztouch website, if you click on forum, and you may have already visited this, this is just a very simple forum to be able to ask questions or make announcements. And the thing that really sets Buzztouch apart is the fact that you can ask a question and everybody there is just so willing to help. If we look at our list here of top 25, these are obviously the people who have the most posts, that have been interacting the most, and just all these people are willing to help. And that's kind of a unique thing if you think about it, really. By the whole nature of what it is that we do, or what you're coming here to do, you're coming here to create an app, quite possibly to sell that app in the store. So in essence, we're 175,000 competitors of each other. If you think about it, if we're all going to put apps in the App Store, we're all kind of competing with each other. But I've never seen it. I've never felt like that here at Buzztouch. Everybody is just more than willing to help out each other, whether it's a brand new user who's just kind of stumbling along the control panel and trying to find his way, or it's somebody that's been around for a while and has just got something tweaked up in his code a little bit that he just needs a little help with. I try to log in several times a day, and I look at all the questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them. But to be honest, by the time I even see a question, somebody else has already jumped in and answered correctly, and that's awesome. It's like a built-in support help desk with just people who are just average users. So that is a huge asset. If you've ever tried to create anything in the past with software and have struggled with the learning curve of creating something or learning a new system or learning a new software, and you kind of feel alone on an island where there's no one to help you, and you send off a question maybe to their support forum or to their help desk, and you either get a quick reply back, hey, search the forums, check our facts, read the documentation, you'll find the answer. That's really disheartening, and it doesn't make learning the system any easier. And that's the exact opposite of how it is here at Buzztouch. So the discussion forums and the community of people that are in the forum is just top notch, and that comes from me, who started off as just one of these people, and I just love it. So other ways that Buzztouch is different. The first line there says keep the code. So that might not be one of the things that you've really worried about to start with, but in the long run, that's probably one of the most important things you want to worry about. And what that means is, I've been talking about how when you're creating an app with Buzztouch, you get to download the source code. Now, the source code is all like the hidden ingredients that make the app happen, all the code. And there's something like 20,000 lines of code that are created for you and that you get to download and you get to keep. Now, why that's important is there's some places that you can do all the configuration of an app online, and what you get to download is just the finished product, the compiled app. Or sometimes they even cut that middle step out, and they just submit the app on your behalf. And what's wrong with that is, if you don't really have complete ownership of it, you don't have complete control of it. And if that business or service was to disappear, you don't have anything. You don't have anything to fall back on. Now you've got an app in the App Store that you have no way to make any changes to because you don't have the source code. So this is one of the things that when I was looking for a solution about 2.5 years ago, that was one of the most important things I was looking for, because I had some clients lined up that wanted some applications made for them. I didn't really know what I was doing yet, but I had some people that wanted me to create something for them, and I had no there was no way I was going to do work for somebody and accept any money for something that I didn't have complete control of. Because if the app that I made for this client was at some system or some website that disappeared, then both the client and myself would be in deep trouble. So I kept on searching until I found a place that lets you keep the source code, and that's what Buzztouch does. So you see on the bullets there what I described. Some services will compile it for you and just give you the finished product, and that's no good. Anytime, just think about any type of work for hire you do. If you were to ask somebody to create a flyer for you, a graphic artist to create a flyer for you, you wouldn't want to just have the finished flyer. You'd want to kind of have the digital files and the way that you could make changes to it down the road if you wanted to. And that's the same thing as having the source code for an application. Some services will charge you for the source code. I've seen some companies that say, hey, you can use our system, you can download the finished product, but if you actually need to get the code, then you're going to have to pay X amount of $100. And that might be the right way to go for some people, but that's if you're just starting and learning and trying to do this the easiest and quickest and perhaps even cheapest way, that's probably not the best solution. So everything that you create and everything that you design at Buzztouch is yours to keep. It's your app. You create it in your control panel. You download the source code. You've got all of the files. You submit it to the app store, and the app store pays you money. If it's something that you're selling, if it's something that you're putting in there for free, then all the download stats and everything are for you. So it's just yours. That's the bottom line, is that we are here to help you create it, but we don't need anything from you, other than just helping you create it. We don't need to take control of your app and submit it on your behalf and keep you chained down to anything. We just want you to create something cool and then get it into the store and do something neat with it. The next thing that kind of sets Buzztouch apart, and this is what I was talking about when I said that we're kind of in the no man's land, is the project scalability. So there's some app builders that are out there that maybe you don't need to learn, Java and Objective-C, which are the two programming languages for mobile applications. Maybe you can use another programming language that you already know, but you're still required to learn some kind of a language, and that might be perfect for someone who's coming with a very defined skill set. But that's not necessarily for everybody. And then some app builders are just what we like to call, or what I've heard called cookie cutter type services, where you get a couple different screens to choose from. You can click them and change a couple words, maybe a color on it, and then put it all together. And at the end of the day, your app looks like the other 4 million that were made by the same system. And again, that might be the perfect solution for one person, but it's not right for everybody. So Buzztouch is kind of right in the middle. You can start off with something very simple, and then as you learn more, and as you understand more, and as you want more in your app, then you can actually create more in your app. And the use of plugins, which again, I'll show you the plugin market and what different plugins mean when we create the app. They really scale out the complexity of your project, where you can start off very simple and then add more and more nifty things. And then even if you down the road started learning how to code some of the stuff, you could do that. Or if you didn't have any want or need to learn how to code, but you found somebody online, maybe at a website that would create some code for you, freelance work or something, you can by all means integrate that into your app as well, and you can create more than what you could to begin with. That's because all the source code is in your control. So we can't stop you from adding more nifty stuff to your app. We want you to do that, and that's why we give you the source code. That's why we have this kind of open source kind of feel. So you can start with something simple and scale that project all the way up until it's something fantastic. So plugins, a lot of different places have different screen types, and I've used some systems that have a handful of different screens, and they're very simplistic, and like I said, they end up feeling very generic or cookie cutterish. But with plugins at Buzztouch, we start you off with the core set of plugins that you need to create apps. And then there's a whole market of plugins that are created by other users. So other people just like you, other people that are members of Buzztouch, can create different plugins and different screens and add functionality to your app. So let me look at the plugin market real quick. At the top here, if we click on plugins, and we're still working on the organization of this, so don't worry about how it looks right now. We're still getting it kind of sorted out because we've had so many great plugins added. But you can see I'm going to scroll through the list here real quick and see how many plugins there are. And some of them you can see start off like this one here. This would be one of the starter ones that come with your control panel, with your membership, a menu button. So it's just a menu list that uses buttons. And you can see that it's free and it's already installed in my control panel. And then there's other ones that users have created. Let's see, maybe a different type of menu. Let's look at menu with image here, a very popular one that Susan made a while back, and you can see that there is a charge for it, a different charge for member versus guest, and we'll explain what that means. And some of these are small investments, but you pay it once, and then it's yours in your control panel, and you can use it unlimited amounts of time. There's no licensing on how many times you can use these plugins. Once you make the one-time fee, then it's yours. But some of them are really, really fantastic. Like, let's look at this example here real quick. You can see some of the demonstrations of what this menu looks like compared to some of the more starter menus. And you can make something that looks, I mean, this is a Buzztouch app running this plugin, this menu plugin, made by one of our members, Danny. And it looks like any other app that you would download from the App Store. So that's what plugins are all about. Big long list, and we're adding more and more every week because members keep on creating them, and whether it's something that they needed for their project and they decide to share it out with other people, or just something that they thought was a good idea, or someone said, hey, can you make this for me? And they thought was a good idea, and they've included it into the market. So we'll talk more about those also as it goes. But the bottom line is, if there's a functionality that you're looking for, and maybe you haven't found that functionality in any of the services yet, including Buzztouch, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. If you were to go to another company and say, hey, I like the way your system works, but if I had this type of screen, it'd be really great. Do you think that company is going to make that type of screen just for you? Probably not. If a million people asked for it, then there's probably a reason to make it. But here at Buzztouch, if you're the only person that needs it, one of the plugin developers is willing to create it for you, whether it's for a fee or for a favor, or it's something that you learn how to do yourself, then the screen becomes a reality, and that's pretty neat. So that brings us up to our first question break. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have. You can either type them in, or if you have a microphone hooked up, we'll be happy to unmute you and let you ask the question.
Yep, I don't see any questions yet, but maybe I'll go ahead and take this opportunity to unmute everybody just to make sure that they can hear us if they want to shout out really quick, and then I'll mute them again before we move on, just to make sure we're not missing anyone.
Yep, I'm here.
Yep. Can everyone's hearing us fine? And anybody have any questions before we move on? I think I unmuted everybody. Okay, great.
All right.
Alrighty, cool.
Cool. I'll keep on going. If you have any questions, if they pop up, or if you think of something down the road, don't be afraid to either type it in or save it for the next break. We're gonna have I think like 3 breaks total, and then we'll obviously answer all the questions before we go.
Great. Moving on.
All right. So the next part that we like to cover is, where do I start? And if you've been around for a while, just bear with me. I like to go through this for the new users. So we're going to start off by exploring the account menu real quick, just kind of show you some of the things that, even if you've been using Buzztouch for a while, maybe you haven't seen or explored yet. So I'm going to look at a couple things here: the public profile, the developer profile, and the email settings, just so that everybody knows that they're there. So I'm going to log back into, this is just Joe Guest. This is just a guest account that I created for these demos. And anytime you need to get your account menu, when you first log in, you get there, but anytime that you need to get there again, you just click on your name up at the very top right, and it gets you to the main menu of your control panel here. So the things that we said we're going to look at is these profiles: the public profile, the developer profile, and then the email settings. So just briefly looking at these, if I look at the public profile, it shows where you can create a screen name, which you should do right away, because this is going to be your username for the forums. So go ahead and get that set up. You can set up a little tagline here out of the list. You can upload an avatar image so that people can either see what you look like or something that represents you. You know how avatars work. Add a status message if you want. You can add in your location, and then if anybody looks at your profile, your public profile, and this is something that people can see by clicking on your name in the forum, then you can tell them where you want them to land on, either your published apps list or your Buzztouch U learning process, which we'll talk about later. So just basic little settings to set up your account and what people will see if they went to it and looked at it public. So that would be like if I clicked on this here. This is my public profile. It shows my avatar, it shows my name, my little tagline, and then all the published apps that I have. So looking back at the developer profile, this is similar, but it kind of gives you a place to put in maybe some of your professional side of information, if you have it, or if you don't, then you can just leave it blank, obviously. One of the things here that it has us fill in is what type of machines we're using, whether it's Windows or Mac, what OS X version if you're using a Mac, Eclipse and Xcode versions if you use them. And that doesn't really affect anything throughout your control panel, but it gives us an idea. We can kind of see what percentage of our members are using different platforms and different software, so we can kind of make sure that um, that our tools are set up geared to work with your tools. So that's just something that's optional that you can set up. Visibility, allowing somebody to see your profile, adding in different URLs for your website or Twitter or Facebook if you want people to be able to see those. A description, maybe skills and technologies. If maybe you're one of those web designers that we talked about and you have a very strong knowledge of HTML and CSS, you can type that in there in case somebody's looking for that, and they could either trade off some work with you or hire you or ask for some help. And any other experiences and then languages that you may speak. We have people from all over the world using using Buzztouch, and sometimes it helps to be able to find somebody that may speak your native language. And then if you did want to quote an hourly rate, you could do so. Buzztouch has nothing to do with any kind of contracting and services between members, but we're not going to limit you from doing so. If you can drum up some work or find somebody to do some work for you that's going to help you with your project, then by all means, that's there to help you out. And then the last one is the email settings, which is basically just what do I want to get emailed about? Do I want to get an email every time I get a private message? That's probably a good idea if you're not logging in every day. Send me an email whenever somebody replies to a post that I put in the forums. That's always a good one to have. So if you do ask a question, you don't have to keep on logging back in and checking and refreshing the screen. You can just wait for the email that says, hey, somebody replied to your post, and just set those up. Make sure that they're set up the way that you want, and then hit save. So that's just a quick tour on some of the things that you can set up after you sign up. The next thing obviously is visit the forum. So I showed you the forum, but I'm going to show you this introduce yourself category of the forum here. So as we go back to the website and go back to the forum, one of the sub-forums here is called introduce yourself, and it's always great to just log in, create a quick topic, tell us who you are, what your background is, why it is that you're here at Buzztouch. Obviously you have the desire to create an app, and tell some background about why it is you're creating an app. And you'd be surprised, there's going to be a bunch of people saying hello to you and a bunch of people saying, hey, I'm trying to do the same thing. Maybe I'm a teacher and I'm trying to create an app for my classroom, or I'm here to create one for my business or something. And you can see that a lot of people log in and introduce themselves and get a warm greeting from the rest of the forum users right away. And that's kind of a good feeling to know that people do care about what it is that you're here to do, and share in the joy of your success as well. The next bullet here says take the Buzztouch learning path. So one of the things that I talked about earlier was the Buzztouch U, and it's some tutorials, some little video tutorials that have little quizzes at the end of them to make sure that you're actually listening to them. And there's 3 of them currently. One is the Buzztouch learning path, one is the Apple or iOS learning path, and one's the Android learning path. And you can pick up some good tips from them. But the Buzztouch one kind of gives you maybe a couple hints and pointers about the control panel and about using Buzztouch in general. That may be a little bit more than what you get here at the new user webinar. So it takes only 32 minutes to do this learning path. I'm going to show you where that is real quick. If I go into my account menu again, you can see Buzztouch U. When we click on that, you can see the learning paths that we have here. Here's the 3 that are ready, the Buzztouch, the iOS, and the Android. And it says that I'm 0% complete. There's 5 lessons. All 5 of them put together take up 32 minutes. Once you do those 5 lessons and get them all complete, then this little star here lights up. And that star just says, hey, you've finished that learning path. And you can currently get up to 3 stars. Now those stars also show up when we go back to the forums and we look at, let's just look at Kitsy here real quick, one of our regulars. And you can see he's got 3 stars there, so he's completed all 3 of the learning paths. And that's just a way of us showing that you've taken the time to, learn about Buzztouch, learn about iOS and Android if that's what you're interested in. And so we can kind of know, if you do ask a question, we don't have to say, hey, go watch all the videos. You might find the answer there. One of those generic responses that you might get at other places. We can tell that you've got your stars and that you've taken the time to learn those. And if you still have a question, then we want to make sure that you do get the answer. So that's part of the Buzztouch U. We plan on creating more of those tutorials as they become necessary. And then the last one here is visit the how-tos page. So the how-tos page is another awesome resource that we have, and it's up here at the top next to the forms. A lot of times, one of the questions that you may ask, let's say maybe you need to ask about setting up Xcode or compiling an app or submitting something, or whatever the question is, there may already be a step-by-step tutorial here created by, and you can see they're created by either David or some other users that were here. And you may someday want to create a tutorial yourself and submit it to us, and if it's something that we think is going to be useful, then we'll throw it in here. And you can see we've got them separated to self-hosting, which we'll talk about later. Some links to some websites, and here's a shameless plug for the Buzzcast podcast that I do. I do a podcast. You can click on that and get to it. Here's iOS or Android tutorials about different things, and then here's some that are segregated to iOS and Android. And you can see anything from video tutorials of setting up Scringo, which is a kind of an advanced tool that we can add into Buzztouch. Push notifications, setting up Android push notifications for iOS, making a button do anything, just all kinds of neat tutorials that people have put together and may just answer your question before you even need to ask it. So please browse through there and find any documents that might be useful to you. All right, so that's going to lead us up to creating our first app. So the steps that I'm going to take is I'm going to go into my control panel, my Joe user control panel. I'm going to click on this create a new app. Once I do that, I'm going to add a few screens. I'm going to download the source code. I'm going to open that up in a compiler. And in this demonstration, we're going to use Xcode as if we were building an iPhone or iPad app. And then we're going to launch it in the simulator and actually see it work. Once we do that, we may go back to the control panel, like I described before, make a couple tweaks to it, make some changes to it, and see those things happen real time in the simulator, and show you how the whole process works. Being able to describe how the process works is a lot harder than just showing you. So we find that it's when we can show you how to do it, it usually takes most of the learning curve off of you once you go back to your control panel and start adding your screens and building your screens and downloading the source code. So, and that's what this kind of picture is showing here. That's all it takes to get hooked. Once I was able to download my first little crazy stupid app that I created, throw a couple screens together, and I got it working on an iPhone simulator, I was like, yeah, this is pretty darn cool. This is something that I can actually create and download it to my phone and make it really work. So that's all it takes to get hooked. So I'm gonna log in. I'm going to do just that. So let me go back to my demo control panel here. So from my main control panel screen here, I'm going to click on this first line up here called Applications, which is going to show my list of applications I have in my control panel. And I'm going to create a new one for this demonstration. And by clicking on here, it's going to ask me what I want to name it. So I'm going to call it New User Demo. I click a couple boxes here to agree to the terms of service and agree to the copyright laws, saying that I'm not going to create anything that would break any kind of copyright laws in the US. Once I agree to those and hit submit, it's going to create that in the database, create it in our control panel, and then give me the option of going back to the list of apps or continuing on to the apps control panel. So this is my main control panel menu, and now I'm actually going to venture into the control panel of this application. So you can see here's my application new user demo. Shows when it was created, how many views it's had, which means how many times it's launched on a simulator or on a device. And here's the steps that I'm going to take to get it working. So for this demonstration, I'm just going to create a very simple app by adding a couple screens together. Sometimes I come up with a scenario of creating a city travel guide or something like that. This week I decided we're going to make I'm going to pretend that Joe Guest is a owner of a pizza restaurant, and I want to create an app for my pizza restaurant so my users can, or my customers can have an app that they can use and quickly access. And the same reason why any business owner would want to have an application, because we live in a mobile world. So that's what we're going to do tonight. I'm going to create a quick little easy app for Joe's Pizza. So one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to first download the source code. So this source code, since all the configuration is going to be in the control panel, I can go ahead and download this, and then I can make my changes later. So it's going to say, do I want to download, prepare a download for Apple or for Android? And for this example, we're going to do one for Apple. So it's going to kind of package a bunch of files together for me, get all the project files packaged together, and then it's going to give me a download link. Now it's ready, so it's going to download a zip file. And it's very small, very quick download. And in that zip file, let me open it up real quick for us. You can see that it's got a couple folders. It's got an instructions PDF, and it's got an Xcode project, which is actually the file that Xcode uses to run, and then a couple README files. The instructions is what you're going to want to open up, and it's going to kind of take you step by step by taking this new thing that you just downloaded and getting it working in Xcode. I'm going to, since I've done it before, I'm just going to walk you through the steps instead of going to the instruction PDF. So I'm going to start off by just double-clicking on this Xcode project, which is going to open it up in Xcode, which is Apple's environment for creating apps and creating apps for both mobile and for their own, Macintoshes. And once it opens up, it's going to index the files, which means it's just going to kind of look at all the files that are in the project and kind of take a picture of what files are there. One of the instructions in this instructions PDF, get rid of some clutter here, is to take some of these folders, in particular the plugin folder, and it's going to have you drag these folders into the project. So I'm just going to grab a couple folders, the ones that would be listed in this instruction PDF. And I'm going to just drag them right into Xcode, drop them in. And it's going to say, do you want to add them to your project? I'm going to say yes. And there they are. I actually accidentally shifted my finger and put them in this in a subfolder of a folder, but that's okay. They're going to be all right there. So basically, you can see if I expand out this plugins here, you can see a list of all these plugins that it's downloaded. These are going to be the same plugins that I'm going to be creating screens out of. So you can see they're kind of obvious what they are: custom URL, HTML doc, Excel doc, a map, a button menu, a simple menu, PDF docs, all the different things that we're going to see in our control panel. Now, as you expand your app and maybe grab some of the free or the purchasable plugins from the market, then you'll be able to add more and more functionality to your app. We're going to just start with just the core stuff. So I've downloaded my Xcode project. I'm going to just go back to the main application page here. In the in Xcode, now that all the files are there, and it's still indexing some of them, I'm going to have it in the background while I'm doing some other things. I'm going to have it go ahead and compile this app, which really there's nothing there yet. You watched me create the app and download the source code, but I haven't really added anything to it yet. So it's just going to be kind of blank to start with. So I'm going to just click run on here, and it's going to be crunching on some stuff while I go back to the website. And while it's working on that, I'm going to start over here and start looking at some of the things that we need to do. So I want to add some screens. You can see it starts off with the home screen menu, and this icon here is for a menu simple, and it's just a simple row list type menu that you can add items to, and we're going to use that. We're going to expand on it. So I'm going to create some of these screens while my app is still crunching. And if I think about, maybe a typical pizza shop app, what it would need, I'm gonna add maybe a screen. Once I click add there, it wants me to give it a name and then select what type it is. And I can see here a list of all the different types that I can choose from. And again, these are the ones that are installed in my control panel. If I purchase any more, if I download any more, then they get added to this list. And so I'm going to first just say, let's say I want a call us type screen. And a call us screen is going to give the user the ability to tap it, and it's going to dial a phone number for them. So I'm going to nickname this one, let's say, order by phone. I'm going to add that screen. If I go back to my screens menu, you can see here's my new screen that's been added, order by phone. And once I go into that, it gives me the dialer options where I can actually go in here and change the phone number that I want it to dial. So let's just say 555-555-1234. If you haven't guessed, that's not my real phone number. So now I've added that screen. I've configured it. It's a very simple screen to add. And now that's in my app. I haven't connected it to anything yet. I haven't added it to this menu. We'll do that in a second. But let me just go back, and I think it said that this was done running. Let me just refresh this real quick. I might actually delete this. Since I'm an idiot and keep on naming the apps the same thing that I do every week, they kind of sit on top of each other and get confused. So I'm just going to delete this out real quick. When I go to recompile it this time, since it's already compiled it once, it's going to be very quick to compile it again.
And I'm just going to add while Chris is setting this up that these are all free plugins that he's using to build this app tonight. So pretty cool that all this is included just after you register.
Okay, now this is what I expected to see. This is my menu list page called Home, and that's what we started off with, and it's completely blank. So if we look back here, that's what this one was that started with. And even though I've added something new to it, it doesn't show up because, like I said, I haven't added it. I haven't connected the screens yet, and that's a very simple process that we'll do. But I'm just going to create all my content first, and then I'm going to add them to the menu, and we're going to see the thing happen. So let me just since this one's already created, let me go ahead and add that to the list here. So I just went into my home screen menu, and I can see on the top navigation bar that it said that it was called Home. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of that. I'm just going to call it, let's say, Joe's Pizza. I'm going to hit save. Now, all this stuff that I'm doing here in the control panel, you're going to notice that I'm not going to go back to Xcode at all. See, this is all the code Inside all these folders, you're going to see a bunch of files that have a bunch of code. Oops. Just lines and lines and lines of code that may or may not make any sense to you. But I'm not going to actually do anything at all with any of this code. Everything I do tonight is going to be done in this online control panel at buzztouch.com. So I just made a simple change. I just changed the nav bar title. And if I pull my iOS simulator back up, I've got a refresh button here. Anytime you make a change, if I was to exit this app and come back into it, like a normal user would be, launching the app for the first time today, or I wanted to order some pizza, so I launched the app. If there was any changes that I made, it would come up and it would pop up. Let me see if I can simulate that. It would pop up and it'd say, the app's content has changed. Would you like to refresh? If I click yes there, it'd be the same thing as hitting this refresh button manually. So I'm going to hit yes, and now I can see that my one simple change I made has put in there. So I'm going to add my call a screen into here. So here's my row items, my menu row items, which just means each one of these is a row. And since I don't have any, it doesn't know what to put in there yet. So it just puts a bunch of blank ones in there. So I'm going to get rid of those blank ones by simply putting in a row title. And the row title is just what gets actually read, the actual text that's in the row. So I'm going to put order by phone. And it says, what screen do you want to go to when you click on that? I can either type it in if I knew the name of it, or I can use the select button, which pops up a little screen selector. And I can see my two screens here, the order by phone and the home screen. So I'm going to just click on the order by phone. It puts the text in there for me. And then I'm going to add that. So since I've made a change, I want to make sure that it actually happened. So I'm going to come back to my app, click the refresh button, and there it is. Now for this demonstration, there's a few things that the iOS simulator, the Apple simulator can't do, and one of it is it can't make a phone call. So if I click that, it's going to say it's not supported on this device. But that's okay. We understand that that would have just brought up the dial, or it would have called that number, just like any other app that has that functionality. So now I can see my menu's working. I've got one thing in the list. Now I'm ready to go make some more content. So let's go back to my screens menu here. Let's say I want to add a link to my website. So let's put visit website as the name of the new screen I'm going to create. And a website is really what we call a custom URL, which means the only thing that we're going to have to tell it, you can see here, it loads a URL into a custom web view. So it's going to pull up a web page by us just supplying the URL or what the website address is. So I'm going to add that screen, go back to my screens, and I'll see that it's here, visit website. That's another very simple one to go into, so I'll go ahead and edit that one now. And it's got top navigation bar here. Maybe I want to put in here Joe's Pizza website. And hit save on that. The main important thing here is the actual URL. What's the web address? And it defaults to Google. So if you forget to change this, then it won't give you an error. It'll just go to the Google website. So I'm going to just make up a website, Joe's Pizza. There should certainly be a Joe's Pizza website out there somewhere. And there's other options in here that I can do, some background images and colors and background audio. But I'm just going to set it up with a new title on the top and a web page. So now I've got that created. I've got it configured. And let's go ahead and add that to the menu. So I'll go back to my home screen menu. I'm going to add another row. And I'll just call it visit website also, or visit our website. I'll select the screen that I want to attach that row item to. And this was the visit website. It tells me it's a custom URL screen. So in case I forgot what I called it, I can kind of use process of elimination. Hit add. Now I've got two rows in my control panel. Let's go back here. Hit refresh. Now I've got two rows on my app. So if I was to click my visit our website, it should just open up a web page. Hey, there is a Joe's Pizza. Where's it at? Los Angeles. best pizza delivery in Los Angeles. Is that true, Ian? Are you
I don't
anywhere
know.
near Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'm a couple hours away from. I'll let you know. I'm going. I'm going back next week, so
All right.
I'll check it out. I'll report back.
Actually, while you're there, tell them that we created an app for them, and we'd be happy to sell it to
Yeah,
them.
that was my first idea. So
All right. Let's make it look good then.
yeah, or we'll trade for pizza. I'm up for
All
that.
right. Hey, I can do that too.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back and add some more things here. Let's maybe do an order by email. So let's do an email screen. I'm just going to call it email. That's just a nickname for me to understand what it is. And there's a share by email, and there's a send email. And the share by email would be one that I could actually email something out to somebody. The send email is just the one that it's going to I'm going to configure in a predefined email address, and then it's going to open up the native emailer, whether it's on Apple or Android, and it's going to let me or let the end user create an email. So let's go back to my list of screens. I see my email plugin or my email screen there. Very simple one, since all it's going to do is it's going to pop up the native composer. There's not a whole lot I need to do to it, so I just need to give it an email address. Let's just maybe call it orders at joespizza.com, and the subject will be make me a pizza. So very simple. The screen nickname obviously is what I've already set up for it. These email values is the only thing I need to add, and then go back to my screens, and let's add that to the main menu. And I think I just called that one an email, so I'll show that you can just type it in if you knew what it was and hit add. And if I was wrong on that, it would have come up with an error and said that it didn't find it, but it looks like it did. So now I can go back to my simulator, hit refresh. There it is. And if I click it, it's going to bring up the composer. It's going to pre-fill in the to, the subject, and now I'm ready to type in what my order is. Extra large with everything. And then, of course, since this is a simulator, I'm not going to send it because who knows where this would actually go. So that works. All right. Now this is all pretty basic so far. I'm going to add in one more kind of nifty screen. And so let's go back to screens. I'm going to add a new screen. And when I think about a business app, I think about one of the main functionalities is being able to find the locations. So I'm going to say locations, and I'm going to use a location map. Hit add. Now this is a very advanced plugin, very feature packed. If we look at the description for it and look at some of the screenshots, you can see that you can create items on a map, create little flags on the map. By tapping on those flags, you can either come up with just a link to a website, or you can come up with driving directions. And here it says, do you want to route to that location? So this is one of the things that really helps Apple say, okay, this is a good app. This is adding a feature to an app that lets people really leverage the power of our phone that they're using. You know, letting somebody use their GPS functionality to navigate to a location. You know, that kind of helps. So I think I already added that one. Let's go back to screens. Here's my locations. And when I go into this one, it gives me a couple things. Top navigation bar. We're going to just leave that at locations. The main thing here is the map locations, which just like a menu item, I can add different rows into the menu item. This one I can add different locations, and I can add as many as I want. So let's say I can call this one Joe's Downtown, and the subtitle could maybe be the address to that. And I don't know an address, so I'll just make one up. Let's just call it, let's see if it understands. Help me with the spelling. Angel, Angeles? No.
E-L-E-S. E-L-E-S.
Why don't I know how to spell Los Angeles? E-L-E-S. Okay, so I
There you
started
go.
off right. Now, if you know the actual precise location, and there's easy ways to get that from some of these websites, you can put in the Latin long in this format, and it'll find it. But if you put in a subtitle, you can try to find the Latin long from the subtitle. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to put something in here. And if I had to guess, it's just going to put something right in the middle of Los Angeles. So that's fine. So I'm going to add that. Actually, let's look at what else we got. The call out window. Let's do a show driving directions on this one. And let's make that one a red pen. Hit add. So it adds Joe's downtown. And let's maybe put Joe's, what's another city nearby that might be
Pasadena.
close? Okay. You're going to see if I know how to spell Pasadena, right? Pasadena. Is that close?
That's it. Yep.
Okay. All right.
Pasadena. Yep.
Pasadena, California. See if it knows where that is. On this one, I'm going to actually say I want to load a screen with a nickname. I'm going to select maybe the main website. So I'm just going to bring up this visit website page. And let's make that one a green pen. Hit add. Now, depending on what it is that you load in here, when it actually creates this map and it shows it to the end user, it's going to try to auto zoom in to show all the locations. So for these two, it should pretty much auto zoom into the LA area. If I had branches all over the United States, and it would kind of auto zoom out, to the whole United States. So let's go ahead and go back to our app. Actually, I need to add that. So let's go back here, go to my home screen, add a row title for locations. And I think I called that locations. Add that. Let's go back to my simulator, refresh. And now for the moment of truth, let's click on locations. It's going to pull up a map screen. There's 2 pins there. Looks like one is, in fact, in Los Angeles. The other one's in Pasadena. Now if I click on the green one here, it comes up with a little link button here. It shows what the name was, what the subtitle was. And actually, one little trick you can do, after I put in Pasadena, California, and got the directions off of it, I could have changed that to anything. I could have put a street address, I could have put a phone number on there, and then I'm going to tap this, and it should bring me to the website. So I could have connected this to the call me screen for the actual phone number for Joe's Pasadena, and I could have made this one link to a call me screen for the downtown location. And this one I think I put the driving directions on. And since this is a simulator, I wouldn't expect it to give me definite directions from where I'm at here in Virginia. It may take a while to get to there, but you get the idea that it works, and it works well. All right, so the last thing I'm going to do is make this actually look like an app, because if I was to take this app right now and submit it to Apple, they would laugh at it and send it back to me and say, that's not an app, that's just, it looks like a piece of garbage. So I'm going to take just a couple quick steps to make it look a little bit prettier. So I'm still here on my home screen menu, and that's what I'm going to edit. You can see from the screenshots that this is, how it looks. That's how a menu, very simple menu looks. But I do have some options down here to change some screens and change some graphics and just make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to start off by, let's say, changing the background image. So I've got a couple choices with a background image. One is to actually have a file name, and that file name is going to have to be a graphic file that I actually drag into Xcode and compile with the app. The other is to use a file URL, which means I can use a link off of a website. If I knew the link, maybe it's something that I found on a website or something that I have on my own, maybe I own joespizza.com and I've got a graphic on there already that I can use on my website. Or if it's something that I saved on Dropbox, just a URL. But for this, I usually recommend if it's something small like a graphic, go ahead and just package it in. If you've ever gone to a website and seen a broken link or a missing picture, that just gives you a bad idea, a bad taste in your mouth about how professional that person may be. So I'm going to actually add it in there. And let me use my Finder here to see what I called it. It's just called pizza underscore background.jpg. And I hit save. So I've told this app that I want to use this file here, and I would have a different file for a small device for my iPhone versus a large device or iPad, so you can actually make the graphics look good on each of the different screen sizes. And I'm just saying that I want to use this file as the background. Now, it's going to look for this file in my package, in my downloaded or in my compiled app. So if I refresh right now, it's not going to know what to do because I haven't actually added it to Xcode. So this is going to be one of those rare chances that you do actually have to go to Xcode and do something. So I'm going to find my images folder here, which I can see is empty. And I'm just going to grab this pizza file here and just drag it right into Xcode. Drop it into the images folder. And anytime you do this, whether it's Xcode or Eclipse or your Android environment, anytime you add something, it needs to just rerun it real quick, just so it can send that file, package it up, and send it into the simulator. Same way that if you had a device hooked up, it would do that. So now the picture is there, but now my app doesn't look all that usable. So I'm going to take a couple more steps to make it a little bit prettier. So I'm going to go back here. I've got my background in. I could have background audio, maybe some nice soothing Italian music to get me in the mood for ordering pizza. But I'm going to go up here to the list layout and color. And I've got a couple options here, the list background color, the row background colors, the row font colors. So all those rows that we saw that were just white background and black text, I'm going to change that. Well, I'm going to keep that. I'm going to actually make those background white, since I have a background image now. I'm going to keep the color of the font black. It's nice and easy to read. I've got some options on the list style. The square corners is how it is now. I'm going to make it rounded corners, so it kind of offsets the list from the background. And I've got some options on what the row select style is, blue, gray, or no selection. We'll just keep it on blue. And let me hit save on that. Go back and refresh. And now you can see that I've got the white background, the black text, and I can change that obviously as well. And it's kind of offset and easy to read now. Let's just go ahead and make this something a little bit different. Let's go with like let's see what that looks like. And sometimes you play around with it, it doesn't look good, and you end up changing it. That looks all right. We'll keep that for now. But now the top nav bar kind of looks off. It looks like that generic, Apple iPhone app from the early days of Apple. So I'm going to change that. So we go back up here to the top navigation bar, still on my home screen menu, and I've got the option for navigation bar background color. So I can bring up the same color picker, or I can actually type in any code that I want. Let's just make that black to give it a more modern look. Hit save. And go back to my simulator. Hit refresh. And now it looks a little more modern. So there's our iPhone app. The last thing I can do, if I wanted to change the order of these here, maybe I wanted to visit our website up top and then locations and then the order options. Let's just do that real quick because it's easy. You can see my menu row titles and the order that they're in. So all I have to do is just change those numbers. So I'm going to make the website 1, the locations 2, and then the phone orders 3, then email 4, hit update, refresh, and there we go. There's our Joe's Pizza app. So all of the creation of that app was done in the control panel except for the initial uh, downloading of the source code and running it in Xcode, which just took me a couple seconds, and except for dragging that one picture in because I wanted that picture compiled into the app. And all the rest of it was done in the control panel. So I could do that whether I was at home on my, business computer, or if I was, um, on vacation with my laptop, or I was using an iPad somewhere at a Starbucks. I can make all those changes. And maybe this is an app that I did create for a customer. I want them to be able to log in. We have options of that also that we'll talk about in a little bit, enabling a client to log in and make his own changes. Maybe his phone number changed, and he can send you that information. You can charge him $50 to change it for him, or he can log in and do it himself. So that is, in a nutshell, creating an app with Buzztouch, which brings me up to another question. Great.
Anybody have any questions on what we've covered so far? Maybe hopefully everyone understands the correlation between your control panel on buzztouch.com and refreshing the simulator. I don't see any questions, so hopefully everyone's understanding it fine. You can always type your questions in the box whenever you can think of something, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute your microphone.
See, there's no questions, Ian, because while I may not be able to properly spell cities in California, I'm darn good at explaining how to use a control panel.
Yeah, and you're good at making me hungry for pizza, so I'm finding that
Yeah.
tonight.
All right. There's no questions. I'll just continue on. I skipped past this slide, so let me back up to it real quick because it is kind of important. We get a lot of questions, from people just starting in development about what kind of computers they need. And everybody kind of understands that if you want to create an iPhone app or an Apple-based app, that you kind of need to use their machine. So you need to use an Intel-based Mac, whether it's a MacBook Pro, a MacBook, an iMac, or a Mac Mini. That's what you're going to need. For developing with Android, all of the products that Google makes for developing for Android, they're cross-platform, so you can use a Mac or Windows PC. So if you're creating only Android stuff, you can use a PC just fine. If you're going to be creating for both, then you can obviously see it's to your advantage to have access to a Macintosh, whether it's yours or somebody that you can borrow. If you see that most of the work that I did was on the control panel, I can do that anywhere. The only compiling that I did was with Xcode, to compile it. So if you don't yet have a Macintosh, but you have a friend that does, then it's possible that you could just bring a project over to his house real quick, compile it up, and then get back to work in the control panel. But a lot of people are put off by the prices of Macintoshes, but I'll be happy if anybody's interested in showing you different resources where you can get Macintoshes for fairly cheap, and start off with something very inexpensive that still works for you, and then if it turns out to be a profitable venture for you, then you can always upgrade. That's what I did. I've never ever a Mac user until I wanted to make iPhone apps, and I had to start with something cheap off of Craigslist, and just kind of let it grow from there.
Yep, same here. And if you ever have any questions
So
about your computer stuff, just post on the forum, and somebody can jump in and help you track something down or give you some advice on what computer to buy, all that kind of good stuff.
yep, absolutely. There's plenty of gadget geeks in the forum that will love to talk to you about different gadgets and hardware. That's the easy stuff. The hardware is the easy stuff. All right. So the last thing we're talking about here is the different membership models. And just to kind of explain it to you, this isn't a sales pitch. This isn't bait and switch or anything. Ian and I are not salespeople by any means. So we just want to make sure you understand what the membership model is at Buzztouch, how it works, what the benefits are, and and if you have any questions, obviously we'll answer those. So Buzztouch, starting in 2013, starting the beginning of this year, we decided to make just a very simple business model of having guests and members. And a guest is just anybody that comes and finds a site and signs up for free, doesn't pay any money, doesn't give a credit card, and can log into a control panel and start creating things. And if you noticed, everything that I did so far today, if I look at my account, it says that I am a Buzztouch guest. So everything I did with this app was everything that I could do if I had just logged in today, created the account, and just started learning. Whereas a member is somebody that wants maybe some more benefits or wants to be able to create more and is willing to invest in a membership model and membership price. So to compare and contrast the differences between the two, a guest can create up to 3 apps in the Buzztouch hosted control panel. So you can see that I had 2 in there. I could create another one. And it gives me more than enough opportunity to play around. I can add as many different screens and stuff to those projects as I want and play around and see if it is a system that actually works for me, a system that I can understand. And essentially, everybody's got different needs. Everybody's got a different desire on what they want in their app. It gives you a chance to figure out if it's going to be something that will actually work for you. We want you to know that if it's right or not. It's not right for everybody. The next line there, keep the source code for the apps that you create. So even though you're just a free guest, maybe a guest has come and created an app, the source code, you saw it right before your eyes. I downloaded it. I've got it on my computer here. I can make changes to it if I want to. I can keep it forever. It's my source code. So we're not limiting the source code to members. It's everybody, guests or members, can have that source code. Obviously, access to the forums, so all your support needs you can ask away, and no one's going to look at you any differently if you're a guest or a member. You ask a question, you'll get an answer. Access to make purchases in the plugin market. So when I showed you the plugin market before, you could see that on some of them there were different prices for a guest versus a member. So that's just going to be, when we get to the membership, one of the advantages of being a member is you can save money in the long run on the pricing of the plugins. And you got to please remember that these plugins are created by our own users. Some of them are created from us, and the ones that we started off with were all free. They all start off in your control panel. But in this case, let's say our user MGoBlue, he decided that he wants to charge a guest $8.99. He wants to charge a member $4.99 for his weather plugin, and that's his choice. He sets those prices. So you can see that there is an advantage if you're going to be doing a lot of stuff. If you figure out this does work, then you may want to look at the membership as saving prices in the long run on the plugins. But anybody can make purchases. So if there's one plugin in the plugin market that would make all the difference to your app, then go ahead and purchase it. That may be the only, let's say, $4.99 that you spend on your whole project, and you'll have a finished product. Also, public webinars. So like the one that we're doing tonight is a public webinar. You can attend those, and then any public live events that we may have. Some may be closed to members only. Some may be open to all guests and members. So really, we want you to be able to log in, create your account, create something, play around with it all you want, download the source code, play around with it some more, see if it is something that actually works for you. There's several steps along the way that could be learning curves for you, whether it's how Xcode works or how Eclipse works or how Android Studio works. Maybe the creation of the graphics may be the part that's hard for you. We want to make sure that you can kind of flesh out all those problems and feel them all and see if this is going to work for you. And most of the times, everybody, most people find out that it does, and that's leads us to what the membership privileges are. So a member can create up to 50 apps in his Buzztouch control panel. So if I was a member, I could log into buzztouch.com, go into my account, and create up to 50 apps, and make all kinds of great apps. In addition to that, there is what's called the self-hosted software, which allows you to run a version of the Buzztouch control panel on your own website. So if you have any experience at all with like WordPress, which is a blogging platform, then you know that there's WordPress.com where you can go and log in and create an account and create a blog on their website. And your website would be WordPress.com/Joe's Pizza. Or you could download their software and put it on your own server, put it on your own hosting domain, and then you would have joespizza.com, which would be your blog. So the same thing happens with the Buzztouch control panel. If you want to have your own self-hosted software, then you can create unlimited apps. You're not limited to 50. It's on your server. It's your software. It's a complete, full working version of the Buzztouch control panel that I just showed you. It's just running on your own server. So with that, brings us back to that idea of being able to create a user account. Maybe I can create a user account for Joe, and he can log in and he can change the menu on his own app. He can add specials or coupons to his own app, and he can do that all by logging into my website. He doesn't have to log into Buzztouch. He doesn't ever need to ever know that there is a Buzztouch. He's logging into my website, maybe Chris's appmaker.com, and he logs in there and puts in his credentials, and he's looking at his own app and he's making changes, and if he messes it up, he messes it up. And so that's one of the ways that some of our experienced users are using that self-hosted software to be able to let their clients do their own work for them instead of having to log into the control panel and make changes for them. So that's an option for you if you're a member. Obviously, keep the source code, same as if you're a guest. Everybody gets to keep the source code. Another benefit that we added this year was push notifications. So there's been third-party solutions that have been, whether they're easy or hard to integrate into Buzztouch, many people have added them in the past. We decided to not even have you send out to a third party to have to figure out how to add that to your app. We've just built it right into the control panel. So if you're a member, you will have in your control panel the ability to send push notifications. And what that means is if you've ever used an app, maybe Temple Runner or something like that, and you launch it and it pops up a little tiny thing that says, hey, there's a new version, go download it. Or, hey, we've created a Temple Runner 2, go download it. Those little notifications that pop up, or that put a little badge icon on your screen, that's what a push notification is. So if you're a member, you have the availability of using our backend. You don't have to add any more software to your app or learn how to integrate it into a Buzztouch project. You just go into your control panel, and there's a little bit of setting up to begin with, and you saw that in the how-to section there was some how-tos and how to set it up, because you have to set it up both in the control panel and you have to set it up at either Apple or Android because it goes through their servers also. The next thing here is not only can you get to buy plugins in the plugin market, and remember that the plugins were a little bit cheaper, but you can also sell plugins. So our current plugin market, like I said, the way it works is users will create these plugins and set a price for them, and if it's useful to somebody, then they actually get the majority of the proceeds for that. We have processing fees involved to do so, to put your thing in a market, just like if you put an app in the Apple App Store, they get their cut. But for the most part, the users, they're actually making money, and some of our plugin developers are probably making more money by selling plugins than they are by any app work that they're doing in the Apple Store or Android Store. So it just gives you a way of, if you have an idea for a plugin that works for your app, you can create it and keep it as a private plugin, or you can create it and put it into the plugin market and share it with other people, and you can sell it for free or you can sell it for a couple bucks, and that's completely up to you. Exclusive member-only webinars. So sometimes we have training sessions or special question and answer sessions with David that are open to members only. So to be able to get those, you have to pick those up from your member control panel. Another thing that you get is a member badge. It's just a little icon. If we look back in the forums again, I think we looked. Let's look at Mutzi here. You can see that he's got a little membership badge, and here's Red Dog's got a membership badge, and LA's got a membership badge. And really, that's just our way of letting you display the fact that you are a member, that um, you have invested your time and money into learning our system, and it does set you kind of apart from the general crowd a little bit. But you can see that most of the people in our forums here, we've got 100% membership in this thread. That's kind of nice to see. It's just our way of thanking you for investing in our system and showing your support for us. And then any other member improvements that we may add later, whether it's an exclusive plugin that we create for members only, or whatever the case may be, then obviously you get grandfathered into those member privileges. So I'm gonna open up for questions about membership in case you have any. Again, this isn't a huge sales pitch, but we do like to make sure that you do understand everything about the membership model, even as simple as it is. We want to make sure that if you have any questions, you do understand what it is that, why it works. Let me go real quick to the website, and I'm going to click on the pricing page here. You can see that this kind of sums up again the differences between a guest and a member. You can see the benefits there. The button to join us. We're currently running a promotion for $49.99 instead of $79 for the year, and that's the yearly price. And we always like to, as a means of thanking you guys for taking the time to sit through this webinar and listen to us brag about how awesome Buzztouch is and answer your questions and stuff like that. We like to add out we usually give out a discount as well. So I'm going to give you a promo code tonight that you'll be able to get a discount even on top of this. And really, the timing is right. And as soon as I said that, it sounded just like a sales pitch. What do we have to do today to get you into this car? The timing just happens to work out where David told me, we're running a promotion, but Chris and Ian like to give out a discount for the normal price, and we're going to still let them give out a discount. So the promo code I'm going to give you is going to give you an additional $10 off of this, which brings it down to $39.99 for the year, which we completely understand is it's not throwaway money, but it's not much in the scheme of things. If you were to pit that up against any of our competition, I think it would be crazy affordable. But that's what we're going to do. So let me just open up this. Get rid of last week's promo code, which just expired. Let's go with Joe's Pizza, and that'll expire 2 weeks, which I'll never be able to figure out by looking at my watch, but 2 weeks, 29. Let's say that'd be about 6/5, maybe. I've got an iPhone right here with a calendar built in.
Yep, 6/5.
All right. I meant to say that. So if you use the promo code, which I'll set up right after I hang up from this webinar, I'll set up one, Joe's Pizza, all one word, lowercase, no spaces, and that will give you a discount all the way down to $39.99 for the year. That's our way, again, of thanking you for putting up with us and listening to us and learning more about our system, because really it helps everybody by you taking the time to understand this. If we've answered any questions that you don't have to ask in the forums, then it really just helps everybody. So we thank you for that, and we want to show our appreciation and get you a good deal on the membership if you decide that that's something that you want. So with that, I think it leads us up to obviously our questions. Any last questions that you guys may have about anything that we talked about tonight, or if you guys, I'm kind of guessing that you guys knew a lot of this and didn't have many questions, but you may have questions that are somewhat related or something that you've come across. I'll be happy to entertain any of those as well.
Yep, I don't see any questions or hands up. So I think they're all following along well. I see 100% attention rate, so very astute, good students.
Either that or I put them all to sleep. Who knows? I've got a very soothing monotone voice for putting people to sleep. I've been told that before. I use that as a weapon sometimes. Um, so the last little slide that we have here is just success stories. You know, I've been around. Ian's been around for 2 years in the forums. He's seen them all. It really it really is it makes me smile when I think about people that have used Buzztouch, including myself, and have been successful with it, have maybe achieved any goal that they had or made some money if that was a goal. You can see Serge Romelli there. He's a French photographer who is one of the leading Photoshop or Lightroom and Photoshop product trainers in France, and he decided he wanted to get into the app world, so he found Buzztouch and he spent a couple of weeks learning how to use it, started making some apps, and they've done really quite well in the App Store. I actually interviewed him for an episode of Buzzcast, so if you want to hear his story, go to the iTunes Store, search for Buzzcast, and see if you can find the one with Serge. Tim Wolf, again, another guy who had I don't think he had any background with programming or mobile or anything to begin with. He's just a very smart businessman, and he knew he wanted to get into create some tools for his business, and he has done quite well with that. And then Delinda was a teacher down in Texas, and she wanted to create some education apps, and then she wanted to actually use the BuzzTouch system to help other people, help some of her students create apps. So she came up with kind of a training program for students there in Texas to help them learn a job skill that could, obviously help them out down the road. So we love to hear those stories, and if you end up having a story similar, by all means, please type it up in the forum. Tell us your success story. One of the forums in there was a thank you and a thank you form that you can announce apps that you've made, and we want to see what you guys are creating. We want to see something great come out of your efforts.
Yeah, it's all
That
great
pretty
stuff.
much.
Chris and I are huge. We're BuzzTouch fans first, and now we're kind of part of the team to help new users get comfy with the BuzzTouch system. But if I can add anything, it's to get active in the forums and network. Like once you get in there and say hello, you'll be quickly surrounded by talented, friendly people that will help you get your app built and out there. It's pretty cool.
It's very cool. A lot of great people, a lot of super nice people, a lot of very smart people. A community unlike any I've seen online before.
Yep. And also, this webinar will be recorded, just like our past webinars. And actually, Chris, if you want to go to the site and show them the events page where they can view the past webinars, maybe they've already seen that registering for this webinar, but just in case.
So in your control panel, you can see webinars, and this is actually where we're at right here. So after we get the video all done, and it takes about a day to download it and get it formatted for YouTube and everything, you'll see it end up like this, just like the last one we did, or someone can actually come and click and watch it again. Or somebody that signed up for the webinar tonight and forgot to log in, they can go back and watch it and hopefully learn as well.
Yep. So I don't see any more questions. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And again, don't be afraid to say hello in the forums and start networking and build some cool stuff.
Yep, and just because this is titled New User Webinar, if you come up within the next 2 weeks with a problem or a question and you want it's something that you think that other people could learn from, by all means you can attend the next one and kind of sit back and listen again and ask us a question, and we'd be happy to help you out with it.
Cool.
Sometimes we don't know the best questions. Sometimes some of the best training that comes out of these webinars is from a user question, and then obviously everybody else that's attending gets to learn at the same time.
Yep.
So thank you guys so much for spending the time with us tonight, and please go go visit the forums, introduce yourself, go and create an app and make something neat and show us what you can make.
Awesome. So have a great night, guys. Hope to see you in the forums. We'll talk soon.
Good night.
Good night, guys.